Exercise L18. Understanding Inferences. 1.
At her trial, Mata Hari was dubbed the greatest spy of the First World War, of World War I. Her French accusers brought 8 charges of spying against her. However, research suggests that she, Mata Hari, was not really a spy.
Mata Hari was probably given a sentence for spying. Two.
By the way, Fred, I heard, someone said that you took an interesting course last summer. What'd you take?
I did. It was a course on building adobe houses. You know, houses made of mud.
What? Houses of mud? Are you joking?
No, I'm not. First, we studied the styles of traditional adobe homes in different parts of the world. That was interesting. Then we learned the techniques of mixing sand, straw, and water. Then we put the mixture into molds to dry, and when the mud bricks were ready, we built a structure of our own. The class's own structure, not each of us making one. A group effort.
So, when are you going to build your house of mud?
Well, not in the near future.
Well, you'll have to let us know so we can help you. I, at least, used to like making mud pies as a kid.
The woman will probably sign up for the course. Three.
A fossil of an extinct and previously unknown seabird has been excavated. This bird has been identified as history's largest flying seabird. The fossils indicate that it had a wingspan of more than 18 feet, and it probably weighed around 90 pounds. Now, if we compare that to the largest seabird of today, the albatross weighs up to 20 pounds and has a wingspan of about 11 feet. The albatross is the largest living seabird today.
There are probably many fossils of today's albatross. Four.
The synovial membranes in the body produce fluids that lubricate the areas between the bones. Besides lubricating these areas, they also keep the cartilage tissues in good condition. So, can anyone tell me why it's important to keep the cartilage tissues in good condition?
Well, cartilage tissues protect the ends of the bones. They kind of act like elastic shock absorbers.
That's right. Now, if the cartilage tissues are damaged, regeneration is slowed down or stopped. Yes, Linda?
Yeah, once cartilage has been damaged, is there anything that can be done to repair the damage?
Well, there are experiments being conducted to renew damaged cartilage by transplanting synovial membrane cells. And so far, the results have been encouraging, very encouraging in fact. But further experiments need to be conducted before a decision can be made concerning their use on humans.
The transplant operation of synovial membrane cells has probably not been done on humans. Exercise L19. Drawing Conclusions. 1.
Polio is a crippling disease that you've all heard about. It reached epidemic proportions during the 1950s. Unfortunately, many sufferers from that decade started experiencing a return of the symptoms 30 years later. Strange, isn't it? The reason behind this recurrence isn't yet understood, but it has given scientists further information about the disease.
For what field might the new information about polio be most useful? Two.
I'd really like to get my foreign language requirements out of the way, but I went to register, and when I got there to sign up for beginning Spanish, all the Spanish courses were closed. So, do you have any suggestions, Dr. Abbott?
Well, if you're insisting on getting your requirement out of the way, you could sign up for a different language. The Italian teacher on our staff is excellent, and the classes are smaller, so there's more opportunity to practice speaking.
I never thought of Italian. Thanks for the advice.
What will the man probably do as a result of this conversation? Three.
You were telling us about the famous fashion designer Jean Muir yesterday at the end of the class period, but we had to rush off. I know it wasn't part of your lecture, but we thought it was interesting. Could you finish what you were saying?
Sure. What were you interested in?
Well, you were talking about her discovery that she had terminal cancer and how she set about changing the way she managed her fashion business. But you didn't get into those changes. I'd like to know what things she did.
I was just saying that she concentrated her time and energy on 4 women. These women had worked for her over the years. So Muir gradually increased their responsibilities and their training. Together, they worked on both Muir's mainline collection and the studio collection using her original ideas and patterns. At the time of her death, she had left enough material for these women to produce collections for 20 years.
She was really passionate about design, wasn't she?
Why might Jean Muir have given so much attention to her staff? Four.
2 University of Alaska professors devised a novel way of getting junior high school students interested in the economic history of their state. How many of you are interested in the economic history of your state? No hands up. Okay. So, these professors produced a 120-page comic book that traces the economic history of Alaska from the mid-18th century until the granting of statehood in 1959. Most adolescents seem to find the comic book format a more entertaining way for learning a subject. So, this seems to be the ideal way to pass on information. The writers use fictional and historical characters to illustrate economic concepts and historical events, such as the hunting of whales and the Klondike gold rush of the 1890s. The response from students was overwhelmingly enthusiastic. And as you can imagine, teachers also appreciated the ease with which their students grasped economic concepts taught in this way.
To what group of university students might this talk have been given? Exercise L20. Inferring reasons. 1.
I saw in the course catalog that the university is offering a boutique class this semester. Is it still open?
I don't know. Do you have the course number?
309.
Let me see. Yeah, it's open. It meets Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 9 o'clock.
Do you know if it can be used as an undergraduate, to meet undergraduate course requirements for art majors?
Just a minute. Yes, it fulfills course requirements for both art and home economics majors.
Good. I'd like to register for it, please.
Why does the woman ask if the course meets the requirements for art majors? Two.
Sound-activated toys. A toy that responds whenever the child talks to it. These toys are just one example of how high technology has affected childhood experience. There's a doll on the market that has a memory like a personal computer. It has a soft face that looks alive because it moves when the doll speaks. Its eyes respond to light by blinking, its hands are sensitive to heat, and it has a voice recognition facility that gives it the ability to respond to the child playing with it. But one of the things we have found, considering all the high technology that goes into making such expensive toys, you may be surprised, or maybe not be surprised, to find that children become bored with the new toy after its novelty has worn off. What children get the most out of, children seem to get the most lasting enjoyment from balls, ordinary sticks, common cardboard boxes. This is probably because these toys can be turned into anything the child's imaginative play needs. Whereas a high-tech doll is just that, a doll. It can never be anything else.
Why does the speaker mention balls, sticks, and boxes? Three.
Before we go over those sentences I asked you to translate for today, I want to announce that the Foreign Language Department has set up a foreign film festival. It will take place during the first 2 weeks of November. I'm especially excited about the Spanish language films they'll be showing. There are 2 from Spain and 3 from Mexico. Besides those films, Chile, Argentina, Cuba are represented, and just a minute. Oh, yes, there's a Puerto Rican film that takes place among the New York City Puerto Rican population. These films will give you a wonderful opportunity to listen to regional accents. I've posted a schedule of all the movies outside the door of the Foreign Language Department office. I've also typed up a list of the names, days, and times of just those in Spanish, which I'll pass out at the end of the hour. Okay, now I realize that some of these showings may conflict with your individual schedules, but I recommend that you try to make every effort to get to as many movies as possible.
Why does the professor encourage students to see the films? Four.
I think you all know the reason I'm here. Sadly, well, first of all, I want to say I regret that violent crime has reached our campus. And of course, until the perpetrator is caught, all of you need to take extra precautions. I know some of you are frightened, and I don't mean to frighten you anymore. I want to assure you that assault is a very rare occurrence here, and the chances of your becoming a victim are remote. However, as women, we all need to be alert and be cautious here or any other place we go. There are simple procedures we can follow. Try not to be out alone at night, and never use shortcuts like unlit alleyways or routes across vacant lots. When you're out, walk facing the traffic so a car can't pull up behind you. I know that some of you take night classes. If you don't have anyone to meet you after class, call campus security. They'll send someone to pick you up from your classroom and escort you to your bus, car, or dormitory. At this point, I'd like to introduce Mr. Lang, who's going to demonstrate some ways to protect yourselves through body language, as well as the best ways to conduct yourselves if you are confronted. He will also teach you some techniques to break someone's hold on you if it should become necessary. So, I'd like you to welcome Mr. Lang.
Why is the speaker giving the talk at this time? The program continues on the next CD. Exercise L21. Identifying attitudes. 1.
Aren't you a little old to be reading comic books?
Hey, this isn't just any comic book. It's a Walt Disney classic.
Classic or not, this is a university.
I'll have you know that this is required reading for my American Popular Culture course.
What? I can't believe it. Here I am reading stacks of major works by important authors, Dickens and Tolstoy, for my survey of 19th century literature course. And you're reading comic books?
Well, this isn't the only required reading material in the course. We have to read a lot about the events that influenced the comic book writers and study contemporary art movements and how women and minorities are depicted in comics and other pop art. This course isn't as easy as you think.
Two.
Well, Jane, how was your first day of classes?
Great. I signed up for an American history course. It's about the Revolutionary War period with Professor Lewis. He's fantastic.
History. Sounds boring to me. I never did like history.
How can you find history boring when... Oh, I guess you never had a teacher like Dr. Lewis. He describes the events so vividly that it seems as though you're actually there, like caught up in the issues. You would really get into it.
Well, maybe.
Oh, come on. Why don't you take it? It's not too late to add a course.
Well, I don't need it for my major, and there are other courses I'd rather take as electives.
Three.
Dr. Reed, are you busy?
Hi, Donna. So you've come back to visit your old university, have you?
Yeah, our midterm break starts a few days earlier than here, so I'm home to see my folks.
And how are they?
Oh, just fine.
Good, good. And how do you like your program?
Oh, it's great. It's a lot of work, though.
Well, now that you're at the doctorate level, you can expect that.
Yes, of course. And Dr. Jennings is... Do you know Dr. Jennings?
Of him, yes, not personally.
Uh-huh. Well, he's arranging for a field study group to work in Easter Island over the semester break. I've signed up to go.
Fantastic. That'll be a great experience. I'd like to hear more about it, but I have a class in a few minutes. It's good to see you, Donna. Maybe you could pop into my office tomorrow afternoon, say about 2:30?
Sure.
Four.
Good morning. Can I help you?
Yeah. Who do I see about a complaint?
Well, that would be me. What seems to be the problem?
Well, we've just moved into student family housing, and the apartment is awful, just awful.
That's odd. All our units are inspected and decorated before new people move in.
I'm sorry, but not in this case. The walls are dirty, and the refrigerator doesn't work, and...
I see. Well, that's highly unusual. Could you please tell me the number of your unit?
It's 42 in South Court.
42? Are you sure? Let me look. And your name?
Anderson. Daniel Anderson.
Ah, I see. Here's the problem. You've been issued the wrong unit. Number 42 hasn't been redecorated yet. I'm really sorry about this. Let's see. You should have been given number 43. It's directly across from number 42.
Exercise L22. Identifying the speaker's purpose. 1.
So, does competition promote success? Think about it. Does competition promote success? Well, doesn't that depend on what you consider, how you define success? So, if you define success as beating your rival, then yes. But if you define success as finding satisfaction in relationships, Possibly, very possibly, competition is detrimental to success.
Why does the professor say this?
Think about it.
Two.
In looking at the teeth of skeletons from the Mesolithic period, it was found that those from Northern Europe had fewer cavities than those from Southern Europe. Why? Simple. Diet. The breakdown of non-carbohydrate foods like meats and fish doesn't form acidic byproducts, whereas carbohydrates are cariogenic. Caries, cavities. In other words, causing tooth decay. Carbohydrates, especially the sugars, are cariogenic. They produce acids that destroy teeth.
Why does the professor say this?
Caries, cavities. In other words, causing tooth decay.
Three.
Think about how you prepare for your courses. You read the textbook, take notes during your lectures, you try to learn the concepts. Then you take a test, one that supposedly shows that you've gained that knowledge. But if you get the answer wrong, does that mean you're wrong?
Well, yes. If I get the answer wrong, then I didn't know the concept or didn't understand it, right? I suppose I could have misread the question.
It might mean the question was badly written.
It could be any of those things. But I want you to look at this in a different way. When we study the way children gain language, we see certain steps, some of which appear as if the child is regressing in language acquisition instead of progressing. Let me give you an example. When a child has acquired a certain amount of language, she uses the form I went correctly. But later in her language development, she starts using the ungrammatical form, I goed, a word that doesn't exist in English. The child has probably never heard anyone say that. This, by the way, can be very unsettling for parents. But after a while, the child goes back to using the correct form. Now, this is a natural progression in child language acquisition. So, with this in mind, think about a test you didn't do well on. Now, the incorrect answers you chose, were they an indication of where you were in the process of understanding particular concepts? In other words, maybe they were correct in terms of the stage of your learning.
Does that mean, Dr. Blake, that when I fail your final, I'll get a pass?
I'm afraid not, Tom.
Why does the professor say this?
But I want you to look at this in a different way.
Four.
Well, we've been rock climbing together now on several occasions, and I think everyone has made excellent progress. So, with that in mind, I thought you might be interested in a special climbing workshop at the State Park Climbing Center. The thing that really strikes me is the people who will be leading the workshop. Jim Brown, for example, one of the most experienced rock climbers in the world today. I hope that you'll be able to arrange to attend. I'm sure that participants in the course will gain a great deal of confidence and refine their techniques. So, here are the details. The group's size will be limited, so everyone will be given lots of personal attention. The cost for the weekend, including accommodations and food, is $300. There will also be an extra but small charge for equipment for those participants who don't have their own gear. And a $30 non-refundable deposit is required by the end of next week, with the balance should be paid by July 20th. I do urge everyone here to take advantage of this wonderful opportunity. So, if you can register, I'll be handing out application forms after our climb this morning. Return the form and the deposit to my office as soon as possible.
Why does the professor say this?
The thing that really strikes me is the people who will be leading the workshop.
Exercise L23. Identifying the speaker's meaning. 1.
Sue, you know you missed the deadline, don't you?
Yes, I know, but could I get my report in by early next week?
Well, I'm not so concerned about deadlines as such. We all have setbacks from time to time.
Oh, thank you, sir.
I'm more concerned about your getting behind in general. I've seen students get so far behind that they can't catch up. If you can't keep up in this course, you're really wasting my time and your time and money. If that's the case, Sue, you should drop now while you can, before it's too late to drop without penalties.
Listen again to part of the conversation. Then answer the question.
If you can't keep up in this course, you're really wasting my time and your time and money. If that's the case, Sue, you should drop now while you can, before it's too late to drop without penalties.
What does the professor mean when he says this?
If that's the case, Sue, you should drop now while you can, before it's too late to drop without penalties.
2.
I dropped my physics course because I discovered it didn't meet my degree requirements. You wouldn't know anyone in the class who'd like to buy the course book, would you?
Not offhand, but if you bought it new and kept the receipt, I'm sure you could get your money back or exchange it for one you do need.
Really? I could do that, could I?
Well, yeah, if it's within a reasonable period of time.
Listen again to part of the conversation. Then answer the question.
Not offhand, but if you bought it new and kept the receipt, I'm sure you could get your money back or exchange it for one you do need.
Really? I could do that, could I?
What is the man doing when he says this?
Really? I could do that, could I?
3.
Okay, now that I have all your decisions, your individual and group decisions written on the board, I want to show you this transparency of the, each choice has a risk factor. So here are the statistics showing how risky, how much of a gamble each of the alternatives is. So take a moment to compare the risk values with the choices you made. What kind of jumps out at you? Yes, Jason?
Well, the individual decisions within each group are, well, not always, but they tend to be less risky than the decision the group made.
Right. Do you see how, as individuals, most of you were not willing to take the gamble, but as a group, you were? The term for this phenomenon is risky shift. Risky shift. A shift in position from less risky to more risky. If we were to average the risk factor of the group's individual members, it usually, but not always, shows that individuals are more cautious about taking a gamble, while a group decision has a higher risk. So, what implications does this have? Think about business and political decisions in particular.
Listen again to part of the lecture. Then answer the question.
So, take a moment to compare the risk values with the choices you made. What kind of jumps out at you?
What does the professor mean when she says this?
What kind of jumps out at you?
4.
The Declaration of Independence makes the pursuit of happiness a political goal. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It's probably true that a country that doesn't have some degree of happiness among its people is going to end up with some sort of strife. But what about the pursuit of happiness? What are the implications of such a goal?
Well, I think it's important that people are free to pursue happiness. I mean, if we're free to do that, to follow a dream, our interests will lead to development, progress in scientific pursuits, and things like that.
Oh, now hold on a minute. Anyone can see what a selfish society we've become in our pursuit of happiness. I think that's clear. Just look at all the materialism here.
Listen again to part of the lecture. Then answer the question.
Well, I think it's important that people are free to pursue happiness. I mean, if we're free to do that, to follow a dream, our interests will lead to development, progress in scientific pursuits, and things like that.
Oh, now hold on a minute. Anyone can see what a selfish society we've become in our pursuit of happiness. I think that's clear. Just look at all the materialism here.
What can be inferred about the students?